Commander Lithera stood motionless before the observation window of the VSS horizon, her iridescent scales reflecting the angry red glow of Nexus 9 below. The planet's surface churned with rivers of molten metal, while its atmosphere swirled with clouds of corrosive gas. According to every scientific principle the Valaxians had established over millennia of space exploration, nothing should survive here. Yet the sensors told a different story. "Run the scan again," she ordered, her secondary eyelids flickering with agitation. There must be an error in the readings. Chief Science Officer Ventur manipulated the holographic controls with practiced precision. "Commander, this is the 7th scan. The results remain consistent. We're detecting human biosignatures and artificial energy patterns approximately 3 kilometers beneath the surface." Lithera's tail twitched, a rare display of emotion for a Valaxian of her rank. The consortium had documented every human colony, outpost, and expedition in known space. Nexus 9 wasn't just missing from those records, it was categorically impossible for humans to survive here. The atmospheric pressure alone would crush their fragile bodies, and the ambient temperature would vaporize their water-based biology in seconds. "What do we know about previous surveys of this sector?" she asked, turning to face her crew. The bridge of the horizon hummed with activity as her officers worked at their stations, each struggling to make sense of the impossible readings. Navigation Officer Krell consulted his database. Nexus 9 was first catalogued 3 centuries ago. Initial surveys classified it as a Class X death world, completely unsuitable for colonization or resource extraction. The consortium's automated monitoring stations have maintained that classification ever since. And yet, Lithera mused, we're detecting not just signs of life, but signs of civilization. "Show me the energy signature pattern again." The holographic display shifted, revealing a complex web of power fluctuations deep beneath the planet's surface. The pattern was too regular, too structured to be natural. More importantly, it bore the unmistakable hallmarks of human engineering: efficient, adaptable, and somehow functioning in conditions that should have destroyed any known technology. "Prepare an expedition pod," she decided. "We need eyes on the ground." Her second-in-command, Sub-Commander Zex, stepped forward. "Commander, with respect, the surface conditions will kill us instantly if we attempt to land conventionally," Lithera finished. "That's why we're not going to land conventionally. Those energy signatures are maintaining some kind of stable zone underground. If humans found a way in, so can we." The next 6 hours were a flurry of preparation. The Horizon's engineering team modified one of their heavy-duty mining pods, reinforcing its shields and adding experimental phase shift technology that might, theoretically, allow them to pass through the outer layers of the planet's crust without being crushed or incinerated. Lithera stood in the pod's cramped cabin, accompanied by Ventur and 2 of their most experienced security officers. The rest of the crew watched anxiously as the pod detached from the horizon and began its descent toward the churning hell below. Energy signatures holding steady, Ventur reported as they plunged through the outer atmosphere. Shield integrity at 93%, 87%, maintaining within acceptable parameters. The pod shuddered violently as they passed through layers of metallic clouds. The external cameras showed streams of liquid metal flowing past their viewport, while the hull creaked under pressures that should have collapsed it instantly. Yet they continued to descend, following the ghost trail of whoever had somehow made this journey before them. Contact in 3, 2, 1. The world outside their viewport suddenly shifted from angry red to absolute darkness as they phased through the final layer of rock. For a moment, there was complete silence. Then their floodlights activated, illuminating a vast artificial cavern that could not, exist. By the first stars, Ventur whispered, his scientific detachment crumbling at the sight before them. The cavern stretched beyond the reach of their lights, its walls lined with structures that seamlessly merged with the surrounding rock. Conduits of unknown design pulsed with energy, feeding into machinery that somehow held back the impossible pressures and temperatures of the world above. And there, carved into the wall in simple human script, was a message. Welcome to Haven. Population 1,247. All species welcome. Lithera felt her worldview shifting as she stared at those words. The consortium had labeled Nexus 9 unconquerable, uninhabitable, impossible. Yet humans, supposedly primitive, fragile humans, had not only survived here, but had built something unprecedented. They hadn't just conquered this world, they had transformed it. Begin documentation, she ordered, her voice steady despite her inner turmoil. The consortium needs to know what we found here. And more importantly, we need to understand how they did it. As the pod settled onto a landing platform that seemed to have been waiting for them, Lithera couldn't shake the feeling that they weren't discovering Haven. Haven had been waiting to be found. The question was, where were its builders now? And what else would they discover in this impossible place beneath the surface of hell itself? The landing platform hummed beneath their feet as Lithera led her team deeper into Haven. Their environmental sensors reported what their minds struggled to accept. Breathable atmosphere, stable temperature, and gravity precisely calibrated to Earth standard. The impossible engineering extended far beyond mere survival. Commander, Ventur called out, his handheld scanner whirring frantically. These walls, they're not just holding back the planet's pressure, they're harvesting it. The entire facility appears to be powered by the very forces that should destroy it. The security officers, Kex and Mira, maintained a defensive formation as they moved through corridors that seemed to anticipate their presence. Lights activated automatically, doors opened without prompting, and holographic guides flickered to life at intersections, displaying maps in both human and various alien languages. They built this place to last, Kex observed, running a clawed hand along one of the seamless walls, and they built it to be found. Lithera nodded, her scientist's mind racing to catalog every detail. The architecture was unmistakably human in its pragmatic efficiency, but it incorporated technological principles that even the consortium's best engineers had never conceived. Every system served multiple purposes. Every design choice reflected an elegant solution to problems her people had deemed unsolvable. They entered what appeared to be a central control room. Holographic displays sprang to life, showing the status of systems throughout the facility. One screen caught Lithera's attention, a massive network of tunnels and chambers extending for hundreds of kilometers in every direction. This isn't just a shelter, she realized. It's the beginning of a colony. They're not just surviving here, they're preparing to thrive. Ventur interfaced his scanner with one of the control panels. Commander, I'm accessing their historical records. The first humans arrived here 73 Earth years ago. A refugee fleet, escaping some kind of conflict. They chose Nexus 9 precisely because everyone else had deemed it impossible to colonize. Clever, Mira commented. The best hiding place is where no one thinks to look. The records painted a picture that challenged everything the consortium thought they knew about human capabilities. The refugees had brought with them experimental technology, phase shields, pressure recyclers, and most importantly, a revolutionary approach to planetary engineering. Instead of trying to force the planet to conform to their needs, they had found ways to adapt and harness its hostile environment. Look at this, Ventur called out, projecting a schematic into the air. They're not just building underground. They're gradually transforming the entire planet, using its own geological forces to power the change. In another century, Nexus 9's surface will be habitable. Lithera studied the projection with growing amazement. The humans had turned the planet's deadly pressure into a power source, its corrosive atmosphere into raw materials, and its molten rivers into thermal regulation systems. Every aspect that made Nexus 9 uninhabitable was being systematically converted into an asset. Commander, Kex interrupted, his voice tense. We're picking up movement in the lower levels. Multiple signatures, and they're getting closer. Before Lithera could respond, the room's lighting shifted, and a new hologram appeared. A recorded message from a human woman wearing what appeared to be a colonial administrator's uniform. To whoever has found haven. The message began, "You've already proven your resourcefulness by making it this far. We hope you come in peace, because what we've built here isn't just for humanity. It's for all species who dream of turning impossible worlds into homes." The message continued, but Lith-Era's attention was drawn to the environmental readings that now flashed across her scanner. The atmosphere around them was subtly changing, becoming more suited to Valaxian biology. The facility wasn't just recognizing their presence, it was adapting to accommodate them. "They've surpassed us," she whispered, a mixture of awe and concern in her voice. "All our technological superiority, all our certainty about what was possible. And they've left us behind while we weren't looking." A door at the far end of the control room began to open, revealing a brightly lit corridor beyond. The movement signatures were getting closer, and now they could hear the unmistakable sound of footsteps. The humans of Haven, it seemed, were ready to meet their visitors. Lith-Era straightened her posture, acutely aware that she was about to make first contact with a human civilization that had achieved what the consortium had thought impossible. More importantly, she was about to meet people who had looked at a death world and seen not an obstacle, but an opportunity. "All of you," she addressed her team, "remember this moment. We came here expecting to find mysteries. Instead, we may have found the future." The footsteps grew louder, and with them came the sound of human voices, clear, confident, and welcoming. Haven wasn't just a refuge or a hidden colony. It was proof that humanity's greatest strength wasn't their technology or their adaptability, but their absolute refusal to accept the word impossible. The humans who emerged from the corridor defied every Valaxian expectation. They moved with the easy grace of people completely at home in their environment, wearing simple but elegant environmental suits that seemed to shimmer with integrated technology. Their leader, a tall woman with silver-streaked hair, stepped forward with an outstretched hand. "Welcome to Haven. I'm Director Sarah Chen. We've been expecting visitors for some time now, though I admit we thought it might be the Arcturians who found us first." Lith-Era found herself momentarily speechless, a first in her long career. These weren't desperate refugees hiding in a hole. They were master engineers who had built an empire beneath the surface of hell itself. "Commander Lith-Era of the Valaxian Science Fleet," she finally responded, attempting the human gesture of handshaking. "Your achievements here are unprecedented." Sarah smiled. "Come with me. There's something you need to see." The director led them through Haven's central complex, past laboratories where humans worked alongside sophisticated AI systems, past hydroponic gardens that somehow produced Earth crops in the heart of a death world, and into what appeared to be a massive observation chamber. "This," Sarah said, activating a wall-sized display, "is why we chose Nexus 9. The screen showed a real-time view of the planet's geological structure. Massive machinery, integrated seamlessly with the natural rock, pulsed with energy as it channeled the planet's deadly forces into productive use. Our ancestors didn't just want to survive here," Sarah explained. "They wanted to prove something, that no world is truly uninhabitable. It just requires a different way of thinking." Venters studied the display with growing excitement. "You're not just using the planet's energy, you're redirecting it, creating a controlled transformation of the entire planetary system." "Exactly," Sarah confirmed. "Every challenge this planet presented became an opportunity. The crushing pressure. Now it powers our fusion reactors. The corrosive atmosphere. We break it down for raw materials. The extreme temperatures. Perfect for our thermal regulation systems." As they toured more of the facility, Lith-Era noticed something else. Evidence of technological advancement far beyond what humans were supposed to possess. Haven wasn't just surviving. It was innovating at a pace that would terrify the consortium's conservative leadership. "Your people have achieved in decades what the consortium thought would take millennia," Lith-Era observed. "How did you advance so quickly?" Sarah's expression turned thoughtful. "Necessity. Partly, but mostly because we stopped thinking about what was impossible and started thinking about what could be possible. When you're faced with certain death, innovation becomes less about careful progress and more about revolutionary leaps. They entered a vast chamber filled with what appeared to be construction machinery. Holographic displays showed plans for expansion, not just more underground facilities, but preparations for surface colonization. Within 50 years, Sarah continued, Nexus 9's surface will be habitable, not just for humans, but for any species willing to join us here. We're not building a hiding place anymore. We're building a future. The implications hit Lithara like a physical force. Haven wasn't just a technological marvel. It was proof that everything the consortium believed about planetary development was wrong. These humans hadn't just survived in an impossible environment. They had mastered it, transformed it, and were preparing to share their knowledge with the galaxy. Director, Lithara said carefully, the consortium will want to know about this place. They'll want to understand your technologies, study your methods. We know, Sarah interrupted gently. That's why we left a trail for someone to find us. But understand this, we're not sharing our advances so they can be controlled or restricted. What we've built here belongs to everyone willing to learn from it. As if to emphasize her point, a group of young humans passed by, discussing complex engineering concepts with an AI interface. They nodded respectfully to the visitors, but showed no sign of surprise or concern at the presence of aliens in their home. Your people were refugees, Kex noted. Yet you chose not to hide, but to build something that could benefit all species. Sarah's eyes sparkled with pride. The best revenge against those who would limit us is to expand the possible. Haven isn't just a human colony. It's a proof of concept. No world is beyond reach. No environment is truly hostile. You just have to be willing to adapt, innovate, and most importantly, share what you learn. Lithara looked around at this impossible place, built by people who had turned desperation into determination, and felt a profound shift in her understanding of the galaxy's future. The humans of Haven hadn't just conquered an impossible world, they had redefined what impossible meant. And as she watched Sarah's team excitedly sharing their discoveries with Ventur, Lithara realized that this wasn't just a diplomatic contact or a scientific discovery. It was the beginning of a revolution, one that would start here, in a place that should not exist, built by people who had refused to accept limitations. A warning klaxon shattered the productive atmosphere of Haven's control center. Director Chen rushed to a central console, her fingers dancing across holographic controls as red warning lights bathed the chamber in an ominous glow. Status report, she commanded, and multiple screens flickered to life around them. What's happening? Lithara asked, watching as complex data streams filled the displays. Something's triggered our deep detection grid, Sarah explained, her expression tense. We've got multiple ships entering the system. Consortium military vessels, not science ships like yours. Ventur checked his own instruments. She's right, Commander. I'm detecting at least 7 capital ships approaching Nexus 9's orbit. They're running active scan patterns. They must have detected our presence. They're not just scanning, Sarah said grimly. They're preparing for a full containment protocol. Your people have classified Haven as a potential threat. Lithara felt her scales bristle. The consortium's response was predictable. Faced with technology they didn't understand, their first instinct was always to control or contain it. But Haven wasn't some primitive outpost that could be easily subjugated. Director, one of Haven's technicians, called out, "The Awakening Protocol is requesting activation authorization." Sarah straightened, her face set with determination. It's time then. Earlier than we planned, but we're ready. She turned to Lithara. Commander, what I'm about to show you will change everything. You need to decide right now. Are you here to learn, or are you here to control? Before Lithara could respond, the facility's lighting shifted to a deep blue, and new systems began humming to life throughout Haven. The walls themselves seemed to pulse with energy as hidden mechanisms activated. "Authorization granted," Sarah announced clearly. "Begin the awakening." The main display showed a massive underground chamber they hadn't seen before. Row upon row of sophisticated cryopods lined the walls, each containing the sleeping human form. But these weren't ordinary colonists. They were Earth's brightest minds, preserved until they were needed most. "When our ancestors flowed here," Sarah explained as the pods began their revival sequence, "they'd brought more than just refugees. They'd brought visionaries, scientists, engineers, and dreamers who were too radical for Earth's conservative institutions. People who could see possibilities where others saw only obstacles." The first pods began opening, releasing their occupants into the care of Haven's medical teams. These weren't just survivors. They were humanity's secret weapons against impossibility itself. 3,000 of Earth's most brilliant minds, Sarah continued, preserved until we could build a place where their ideas could flourish without limitation. Today, they awaken to a galaxy that needs their vision more than ever. As if responding to the awakening, Haven's systems surge with new energy. The facility's defensive capabilities, previously hidden, revealed themselves. Not weapons, but technologies so advanced they might as well have been magic. Gravity manipulation fields, phase shift barriers, and systems that defied conventional understanding. "Your ships can try to contain us," Sarah said to Lithara, "but Haven was built for more than just survival. We're not afraid of the consortium. We pity their limited vision." The awakened scientists were already being briefed, their eyes bright with enthusiasm, as they absorbed decades of progress and began proposing improvements. Haven wasn't just a refuge. It was an incubator for revolutionary ideas that would transform the galaxy. "Commander," Ventor reported, his voice filled with awe, "I'm detecting energy signatures throughout the planet. The terraforming process is accelerating exponentially. They're not just changing the surface, they're transforming the entire world in real time." Outside the facility's walls, Nexus 9's very nature was being rewritten. The impossible was becoming possible at a pace that defied comprehension. The approaching consortium fleet would find not a hidden colony, but a civilization ready to reshape the galaxy's understanding of what was possible. Lithara made her decision. "Director Chen, I need to contact the fleet, not to warn them, but to make them understand. What you've built here, it's not a threat. It's an opportunity." Sarah smiled, genuine warmth in her expression. "That's why we let ourselves be found, Commander. The galaxy is full of impossible worlds waiting to be transformed. Haven isn't just a single colony. It's a prototype for humanity's gift to all species." As the awakened scientists began their work, as Haven's systems hummed with unprecedented power, and as Nexus 9 itself began to change, Lithara understood the true magnitude of what she was witnessing. This wasn't just an achievement of human ingenuity. It was the beginning of a new era in galactic history, an era where the word impossible would need to be redefined. The consortium fleet hung in Nexus 9's orbit like a necklace of steel and menace. But Haven was ready. As Lithara watched from the control center, the planet itself seemed to pulse with newfound energy. The awakened scientists worked with practiced precision, their decades of frozen sleep forgotten in the excitement of implementation. "Final warning from the fleet, Director," a Haven technician reported. "They're demanding immediate surrender and technology transfer." Sarah Chen stood calmly at the central console, the newly awakened Dr. Maya Patil, Earth's former leading expert in planetary engineering, at her side. "Send them our response. Show them exactly what humanity can do." At her command, Haven's true power activated. The planet's corrosive atmosphere began to shimmer with points of light, forming a vast network of energy conduits visible even from space. The molten rivers that had made the surface uninhabitable started flowing in new patterns, guided by forces that defied conventional physics. "Remarkable," Dr. Patel commented, watching the transformation. "The integration is perfect. 70 years of preparation, and everything works exactly as we theorized. On the massive display screens, they could see the consortium fleet's confusion. Their sensors must have been overwhelmed by the unprecedented energy signatures emanating from the planet. Lith-Era had already transmitted her report, but she knew her superiors would struggle to accept the reality of what humans had achieved. "They're powering up weapons," Kex reported tensely. Sarah nodded to Dr. Patel. "Time for the demonstration." Then, the scientist input a complex sequence of commands. Around Haven, thousands of quantum resonators activated simultaneously. The very fabric of space seemed to ripple as the technology they'd developed during their long exile finally showed its true purpose. In the space between Haven and the consortium fleet, reality itself transformed. A corridor of perfectly controlled space-time opened, a demonstration of power so far beyond conventional technology that it could only be seen as an olive branch, not a threat. "Broadcasting on all frequencies," Sarah announced. "To the consortium fleet and all species who would call the impossible their limit, we offer you a gift. Haven isn't just a colony. It's the first of many. We can teach you to transform death worlds into gardens, to turn hostile environments into homes. This is humanity's contribution to the galaxy, the end of scarcity, the beginning of true expansion." Through the quantum corridor, they transmitted the complete technical specifications for Haven's most basic systems. Not their greatest secrets, but enough to prove their sincerity and their capabilities. "Commander," Ventur said softly to Lith-Era, "the fleet, they're standing down." The response from the consortium flagship was immediate. The fleet admiral himself appeared on their screens, his scales shifting colors in what Lith-Era recognized as expressions of shock and wonder. "Director Chen," the admiral spoke carefully, "the consortium requests the honor of diplomatic contact. What your people have achieved here, we have much to learn from each other." Sarah smiled, but it was Dr. Patel who responded. "Admiral, humanity has spent 70 years preparing for this moment. We didn't hide on Nexus 9 because we were afraid. We came here to perfect our gift to the galaxy. Every impossible world can become a home. Every hostile environment can be transformed. All we ask is that this knowledge be shared freely, for the benefit of all species." The transformation of Nexus 9 continued around them. Where there had been only death and destruction, life was taking hold. The surface was changing, becoming something new, not terraformed to Earth standards or Valaxian preferences, but into something uniquely adapted to benefit all species. "A bridge between stars," Lith-Era murmured, finally understanding. "You didn't just build a colony. You built a future." Sarah nodded. "That's what humans do best, Commander. We see the impossible not as a barrier, but as a challenge. And now we invite the galaxy to dream with us." As diplomatic channels opened and the first official contacts began, Lith-Era watched the awakened scientists already beginning to plan their next projects. They spoke excitedly of other death worlds, of new applications for their technologies, of possibilities that would reshape the galaxy. Haven had done more than survive. It had thrived in the face of impossible odds. And now, as representatives from across the galaxy began arriving to learn and share, it was clear that humanity's greatest achievement wasn't conquering an impossible world. It was showing the galaxy that nothing was truly impossible at all. The age of limitations was over. The age of transformation had begun. And it had started here, on a world that no one could conquer, until humanity decided to try.